All right, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Crypto World Radio. My name is Wabi. I'm here joined by our special co host of the day, Monad. And behind the Monad profile is Keon, who's one of the co founders of Monad. And we also have our boy Feel Pain. If you guys enjoy this conversation and all that stuff, you can catch a replay up over on our YouTube channel. And I believe we're also streaming from YouTube as well. So shout out to those who are also tuning in from YouTube. And yeah, welcome to our discussion with Monad. And just a little brief intro for you guys. Monad is a new proof of stake blockchain and decentralized computation program that's also, catching a bit of hype over in the digital asset space. And it has an incredible throughput of over 10,000 smart contract transactions per second, and they honestly have a position to significantly advance the capabilities of what we know from these smart contract platforms, but still while maintaining the core thesis of an L1 EVM, which is full compatibility with the bytecode for Ethereum VMs. And yeah, their team has an insane background from HFT kernel development, high performance driver development background, such as jump. Excuse me for that, guys. Bit of a hiccup there. Sorry about that. I just had a naked juice power C, and sometimes I get hiccups from that. So, um, yeah, back to what I was saying. The cool thing that I find about Monad is that you can essentially build any existing type of layer two on its platform. So, things like Arbitrum, Optimism, and things like that. So, I honestly find it pretty interesting how Monad is going to have this attractive option for devs that are seeking to build these dApps that require these high transaction throughputs. So things like NFT platforms, GameFi, basically anything that just made the bull run a hassle where I think the average transaction, throughout 2021 on Ethereum on mainnet was like, like 400, $700. I believe like one of my last large transactions, as far as like, when gas was going insane, was in January of 2022. And I had spent like like just over $1,000 to swap out of a token, which I will not name, but the market cap was significantly well over 100 million, and got charged a pretty high amount. But anyways, tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with one of the guys behind Monad, Keon, to really learn more about their vision, their tech, and how they plan to change the game within the digital asset space. So thank you guys for joining me. And without further ado, Keon, welcome. I want to thank you so much again for taking the time to talk shop with you. And God bless you, man, for coming on up, man. I know this is something that I've been trying to work with for a while. And shout out to DT, who helped form this connection. Always good meeting some fellow friends within the crypto space. And I want to welcome you on, man. What's going on?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Wabi. Um, I can give a like super quick summary of Monad, but yeah, just first of all, thanks for having me, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Just to give a quick summary, Monad is we have one sort of singular goal, which is delivering really high performance execution of EVM smart contracts. So making the Ethereum virtual machine run a lot faster than it does right now. Monad is a new EVM compatible layer one. And I think the thing that sets us apart from other competitors is that we just go really deep in terms of optimizing the internals of Ethereum, optimizing how transactions are executed, enabling parallel execution. Um, we also go really deep in terms of how state is stored and how state is accessed. Whenever you want to run any smart contract, it pretty much always depends on some permanent state of that smart contract. For example, when you want to swap against a Uniswap pool, you need the balances of those pools in order to actually complete the transaction. And pulling that state from disk is really inefficient, even if the state is stored on an SSD, which it almost always is. So we do a lot of optimizations to make state access a lot more efficient, in addition to the parallelism of execution, ultimately resulting in a much more performant execution environment. And then we pair that with really high performance consensus in order to kind of keep up with this execution capability and deliver the highest performance EVM possible. So very excited to share the testnet with the world in a couple of months. Our team is hard at work. We're pre-testnet right now, but um, it's kind of I think the thing to communicate right now is that parallel EVM is possible, and it makes a big difference in terms of uh, solving some scaling issues. And we're just excited about the future of EVM and the future of decentralized apps in a world where there's 1,000x the throughput of Ethereum right now and 1,000x cheaper transactions. And I could talk about some of the sort of downstream effects of that, but I'll kind of stop here right now and just see what questions you have, Bobby, or what questions other people have.
Yeah, no problem, man. Throughout the conversation, feel free to be as technical or as non-technical as you'd like. This is a free flow conversation, man. No holds barred, non-edited, all that stuff, man. And yeah, man. I guess we can get started. And to touch upon what you were discussing about parallel execution. So, from what I understand, it's going to enable to execute many transactions at the same time in parallel, which can save things like time and resources. So, if you can elaborate, and this is more of like if you can explain it in a very non-technical question, my bad, non-technical answer. If you can elaborate on how the feature exactly works and how that helps developers reduce things like costs and improve things like performance.
Definitely. Okay, the first thing that you need to know is that in Monad, transactions are still linear, blocks are still linear. So it's still the same as Ethereum in the sense that there's total ordering from among the transactions. It's just that when we go to execute the transactions, we're doing work in parallel that doesn't compete with each other. Um, but the actual, like the excuse me. Yeah, like from the perspective of how the smart contracts work, or you know, um, like sometimes when people hear parallel execution, they start to worry that that will affect the behavior of smart contracts, like the one smart contract running at the same time as another one, that those will cause like unexpected side effects to happen. Like none of that is a possibility here because transactions are run in parallel that don't compete with each other. And then even if we do run transactions in parallel that do end up having common dependencies, then we end up detecting that issue and just rolling back the later of the two transactions and re-executing. So the result of running these transactions in a more efficient way using multiple cores on the machine, the result is still always the same as if we had just run all the transactions one after another, the way that they currently are done on almost every blockchain right now.
I want to pass it over to Payne. I feel like he has more experience than myself with interacting with more of the broader EVM chain. So, Payne, if you want to chime in, feel free to do so.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I would ask like, what would you say overall is the best pitch for Monad, and like why do you think it necessarily like what advantage does it have over other EVM blockchains, and like what is better about the tech that allows for this Monad to be a great product?
Yeah. The background is that other EVM compatible blockchains are delivering on the order of 100 to 200 transactions per second. So this is Polygon, Avalanche, etc. Uh, which is more than Ethereum. Ethereum is about 10 transactions per second right now, but still really not enough to on their own, like as a singular unit, not enough to address all of the needs of mass user adoption. So, like if you think about a successful iPhone app, it might have like 500,000 daily active users or a million daily active users. Let's just say there's a million daily active users, and then people are transacting 50 times per day, among these daily active users. Maybe that's because the app is fairly interactive, or you kill 50 monsters in the game per day, or you catch 50 new Pokemon in a day, something like that. So 50 transactions per day, and then a million daily active users. So that's 50 million transactions per day. 50 million transactions per day is actually 500 transactions per second. So it's more than what a single instance of Avalanche or Polygon could keep up with. And our thesis is that if and when there are applications that achieve mass user adoption on that level of a successful iPhone app, they're going to need a lot more throughput than what exists right now with existing EVM compatible chains. Now there's a lot of more complexity to the situation, and you might have questions about how rollups fit in there, or like just the longer term scaling plans for Ethereum. We could definitely get into that as well, but I think just at outset, what I wanted to say is that there's a need for much higher throughput within a single unit of blockchain, like within a single L1. I think of a blockchain as just a unit of shared global state. There's a whole bunch of applications that all live in the same state and that a bunch of users can all interact with. And the benefit of the shared global state is that, all of the apps and all the assets that are living in there can easily compose on top of one another. Um, if when you start to get into the realm of like having a bunch of different separate blockchain units, like many different uh Avalanche subnets or many different Polygon supernets or something, then you can kind of linearly increase the total throughput among all of them. If you have 100 subnets and they each have 100 TPS, then you get to 10,000. But all of these 100 subnets are like completely disjoint. They're separate. They can't compose amongst each other. So really what's needed is very high density computation, a single unit that can service many more users, many more transactions. That's really kind of the core thesis behind Monad.
Sweet, thanks. Yeah, that gives me some clarity for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Wabi real quick.
Oh yeah, sorry. One other thing I just wanted to mention is, you were asking also like, how is it that, what is the differentiation? And I told you the what, which is higher throughput and why that's needed. The how is really just through our optimizations, the low level optimization of parallel execution, of high performance state access, of uh, deferred execution, where we execute after coming to consensus, which then allows us to dedicate the full block time to execution, where in systems where those are typically interleaved, there's only a small fraction of the time that's allocated for execution, as well as the improvements that we made to consensus. So those kind of four things. But that's the how, and then the why is really because we think that much higher throughput is needed, and you can see that because whenever there's um, an application that kind of captures, achieves product market fit and gets many users, like StepN on Solana, or just other things that capture retail mindshare, then they overwhelm the blockchain that they're on. You could see it with like the Polygon Sunflower game or certain other things that have happened in the past. So there's the how and there's the why, and just excited about the future.
Yeah, I'm loving this conversation here. I love how in depth you guys are going into it. So back to what we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, as far as like how you guys are going to allow for any existing type of L2s to be built on top of your guys' platform. How do you see developers utilizing the capability to build these more like innovative solutions on top of Monad? And sort of like a part two to this question, would be like if you can give us some examples of any popular Ethereum dApps that could benefit from being ported over to Monad, and you can be as specific as you want to be. Like say like as a Decentraland or like a Sandbox, more of these metaversey GameFi kind of games that have a lot of like microtransactions and would just destroy your average user on Ethereum. So more of a two-part question, and I know that second part includes a lot more detail, but you're free to go as long and descriptive as you want, or as concise as you want. The stage is all yours, brother.
Regarding rollups on Monad, I think the main thing to emphasize is that, the rollups have uh, a smart contract component that's on Ethereum right now. We're EVM compatible, so and then also on the Ethereum RPC side, we preserve the behavior of the Ethereum RPC API, like the same commands can be run on Monad, behaves the same way. So infrastructure that's built on top of Ethereum, whether that's wallets like MetaMask or scanners like EtherScan or just other infrastructure, that all works seamlessly. It's kind of like a drop-in replacement. So we think that from the rollup perspective that it would be feasible to build rollups on top of Monad, perhaps leveraging some of the specific execution improvements that we've made within Monad to accelerate the capabilities of those rollups. But it's still pretty far out. I think we're really focused on delivering a really high performance layer one, and we'll worry about integrations with rollups at a later point in time. It's a nice way to move computation off chain. And there's a lot of excitement there, but we're really just focused on making the L1 more performant. And then I guess, yeah, regarding the other question you're asking about, which is like kinds of apps that really could see a lot of usage on Monad and could take advantage of the expanded design space coming from much cheaper fees, much cheaper transactions, much more plentiful transactions. Well, I was, I saw something on Twitter the other day how there's a big scandal going on in the Pokemon card space because some of the workers at the Pokemon card factory seem to have been stealing the holographic Pokemon cards, um, so that like the packs tend to have fewer holographic cards, and then the workers are like stealing them and then selling them to shops at a huge profit. Um, so I think it's like a good reminder about the fact that uh, one of the values of crypto is that the computation is on chain; it can be auditable by anyone, and so from a more general perspective, I'm really excited about the evolution of collectibles type gaming like Pokemon cards um, on the blockchain. I'm excited about things like Parallels that are trying to build new trading card game experiences and then have the mechanics of that game be on the blockchain. I think Parallels, at least initially, is minted on Ethereum, and it's very clear that like you couldn't actually play the game on Ethereum, just way, way, way too expensive. So like turn-based games, like certainly if every turn is on the blockchain, that's going to be a ton of transactions. But then even like storage of the cards and trading and metadata and outcomes of games and achievements, records of wins and losses, like things like that on the blockchain, I think it makes a lot of sense. And there will be a lot of, you're going to need a lot of transactions if you want to support that.
So I like the comparison that you made, sort of like a turn-based RPG. So you guys are trying to be like I'm not sure if you know this video game, but like a God of War or a Devil May Cry, kind of like fast-paced action kind of game. Yeah.
Um, I think we don't presume to like predetermine what kinds of games will be built, but I mean, it yeah, I think maybe a good analogy would be like whenever you're playing any of these games and then you unlock an achievement, and right now like that pops up on the like in the bottom left corner or whatever in Steam, and then it gets added to your Steam account. Like I could see all of those achievements being on the blockchain and being things that could make you eligible for like airdrops from competitor game studios that are trying to like reward you and like pull you into their universe. Um, I could see the weapons, the armor, etc., that being on the blockchain. The exact mechanics, like I think you walking around or like swinging a sword, like every swing of the sword is not going to be on the blockchain, but the items and maybe the achievements, I could definitely see that being on the blockchain.
Awesome, man. I've posted a few things up on the Nest for you guys, for those in the audience, so you can check out some of Monad's things. They're doing a meme competition and also some stuff from Keon himself speaking. And yeah, man, I like the sort of like the gamified analogy that you're giving, being a gamer myself. So one thing that I wanted to touch upon is security. So given that you guys are trying to do like high performance stuff with portability and all that, how does Monad plan to achieve still like the decentralization aspect while still maintaining, the things like high throughput? And what are some of the steps that you guys have taken to ensure things like security and robustness of the platform remain alive and fluid?
Decentralization is really about several major components. One is the cost to run a full node. That is to say, the cost to participate in the network fully and listen to transactions and maintain the state and verify that the state that other nodes in the system are publishing is true, that that agrees with what you computed. So that's one part of it. The other part is the extent to which the stake in a proof of stake network, the extent to which the stake is well distributed among a diverse set of node operators. Which, some of the metrics around there are the number of nodes in the network overall that are participating in consensus, but the other one being the actual real distribution of the stake. Like, it doesn't do a lot of good if there's 1,000 nodes, but then the top 20 are holding almost all of the stake. So it's really about, um, like I said, again, cost to run the node, number of nodes participating in consensus, and then also the distribution of the stake among the nodes that are participating in consensus. And the good news with Monad is that because we have focused heavily on delivering performance optimizations through algorithmic improvements rather than just relying on hardware. The cost to run a Monad node is not too different from the cost of running an Ethereum node because we're not relying on machines with heavily specced out RAM or very heavily specced out number of cores or things like that in order to actually participate in the node in the network. Um, that's really important to decentralization, just keeping the node costs reasonable. From a stake perspective, it. I think we should just comment on it later when the network is live, and everyone can look at what the distribution of stake is. But it's really important from our perspective to have a really strong diverse group of validators, both among very professional companies and then also among grassroots validators, um, and having the stake very distributed among these different participants, so that there's a high degree of decentralization among the stake, because that ultimately is what controls the ability to censor transactions or to choose the ordering of transactions, or God forbid, to like make the 51% attack.
So we've touched upon the security, decentralization, and as you said, the hows and all that stuff. So one thing that I'd love to know, Keon, I'm seeing these memes on your guys' timeline. The masculine urge to fully strip down Ethereum, dissect the EVM, optimize it at every level, and put it back together again. So, Keon, I have to say, man, big ups to the individual that is making the timeline fun. Truly, man. That is a good source of talent, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, we let him out of his cage 1 hour a day, and he's really he's good for us.
So that adds like a really fun aspect to all of this. But Kiana, I'd love to know, man, more of your background. We've touched quite a bit on Monad, but I'd love to know how you came into the digital asset space and sort of like how you came to the thought process of creating Monad. I understand that you worked at Jump for quite a bit. And one thing that I love doing on these spaces is as we get into the nitty gritty details of what the product market fit is and the tech, I love connecting with the team behind it and sort of bringing a more personal approach to these spaces, brother.
Yeah. I could tell you a little bit about me and our team. I let's see, grew up in Carson City, Nevada. Was really into math back then. Did a lot of math contests in high school, and then I ended up at MIT. Studied computer science there. MIT is an awesome place. It's really there's a lot of like very uh, hackery mind, people with a very hacker mindset. A lot of people working on really interesting independent projects. I think that's one thing that I wish I'd done more of, and something that we really look out for nowadays, like as we're growing our team, is just looking for people who enjoy working on independent projects rather than just like, people who take a bunch of classes. Um, and then in any event, I ended up working at a high frequency trading firm after college. I know that they're really popular nowadays, but when I graduated, it wasn't like super well known field to go into. Um, and then worked at that company for about 2 years. I guess a funny story about them. So it's a company called GetGo. It doesn't exist anymore, but um, they acquired this other high frequency trading firm that had a major meltdown due to an algorithm incident where the other firm, Knight Capital, had some misconfiguration between the algorithm and the gateway, which is like the component that connects the trading systems to the exchange. And there was some misconfiguration that caused orders to get misinterpreted, and it caused them to like buy high, sell low, like repeated, like many times. They lost like $400 million in about 30 minutes. So Knight ran into trouble, and then the company I was working for, GetGo, came in and like sort of acquired them, a reverse merger. And then it was about that time that I don't know, it just looked like it was going to become a much bigger company, and things were maybe going in the wrong direction. So I left. This was 2013, and joined a company called Jump Trading, which is another high frequency trading firm in the space. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot. Worked on really high performance trading systems that are um, involved in algorithmic trading of um, many different established markets in traditional finance. It's also Jump is also a player in the crypto space, although for the first 7-ish years that I was there, I was not involved in crypto at all. And then in 2021, I uh, joined the crypto division of Jump and worked there for about 7 or 8 months, working mostly on Solana DeFi. Learned a lot about the state of the space, the state of existing L1s, and this excitement about decentralized computation, but also some of the struggles that people were having with as developers, like building on Solana, or as developers more generally, just struggling with high gas fees and low throughput on existing systems. and just realized that there was a really strong need for a much higher performance system that was still backward compatible with EVM. EVM is realistically, and sorry for the monologue, I'll stop here in a second, but EVM is realistically, the standard for smart contract development. 97% of all TVL in DeFi is on EVM. Most smart contract developers are EVM developers. They're Solidity developers, and Solidity compiles to EVM. So, along with my coworker James, who had been working with since 2014, we realized that there was just a really significant need for much higher performance systems at the base layer for EVM execution, and also that our previous background was really relevant to solving this problem. So James and I teamed up with Eunice, our third co-founder, also an MIT grad. We teamed up and started Monad in early 2022, and then we've just been growing our team, assembling an awesome group of engineers and marketers and community builders to build this new effort that is really focused on helping EVM be a lot more performant. Still very early days for us. We're 12 people. It's quite a small team, just a team with a very clear focus. And yeah, just looking forward to sharing the effort with the rest of the world and, continuing to iterate on it.
Man, so you essentially have experience also building on things like Rust. Does Monad intend to work with other programming languages that are more newer, such as what Say and Aptos are using, such as the Move VM?
No, we don't have any plans to do that. I mean, maybe in the very, very distant future, but our focus is really on EVM.
Understandable, man. So, being that you worked more, go ahead, Payne. Go ahead. Payne,
Oh
would
no,
you
I
say
was just
something,
gonna
brother?
say, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, what do you think about all these different chains, basically, like having different languages? Like, do you think that it creates a barrier for developers, or do you think it fragments liquidity or has any issues? Like, what would the ideal situation look like? Do you think it would look like everyone using only one coding language, or just curious on your thoughts of that?
Yeah, I think there's a significant kind of, in the traditional world, they call it vendor lock-in effect, where when you build for Solana or you build for Aptos or you build for Sui, you're really just building your application in an environment where you're kind of stuck. It's really hard to move. And um, ironic, actually, that it's called Move. And it's just like, for developers, they really want the best of both worlds. They want to build for the portable standard where their application will work for many different chains, many different environments, and they also want performance. I think that that's a key thing that we're providing in Monad is offering the best of both worlds for developers. I also think that the EVM versus Move narrative is going to be heating up over the next 6 to 12 months. Like right now, it's not super at the forefront, but there's a need for really high performance EVM. The EVM developers or the EVM community needs a high performance horse in the race in the competition versus Move. It is really kind of a war of standards, and we're here to help address that problem.
Well, if anyone in the audience wants to come on up and ask some questions, feel free to do so. We're here with Monad, and if anyone wants to come up, I'll bring you right on. And yeah, so being that you came from Jump and worked more with the TradFi sector throughout your time there, um, I'm implying that you've always paid attention to things like macroeconomics and things like that. Do you still focus on things like what's happening across the world as far as like economies and all that stuff, or do you guys just focus on the crypto market exclusively?
We focus exclusively on the crypto market, and I mean, to be honest, we're just really focused on building, on addressing performance problems. Um, I think at a later point in time, there'll be more time to worry about. There's a lot of stuff that you can always be worried about. It's easy to like get paralyzed by the worrying, but um, I think at the end of the day, our mission is really clear. We've got a great team, and what we're building is something that's really needed. So no concerns really about the broader environment.
Awesome, dude. That's what I love to hear, man. I think for the individuals that are like in crypto as a whole, should really just like focus on the market environment exclusively. I think things relating to what's happening in other countries. Like I understand that it is good to take note of it, but a lot of that comes from distraction, really. But yeah, man, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. And what are things looking like as far as the roadmap for Monad goes for 2023?
We're really excited about shipping the test net in a couple of months and mainnet to follow near the end of this year. I think there's a lot more to come after that in terms of repeated iterations, additional improvements to the EVM, new precompiles, new opcodes. But this initial version is really focused on performance and solving problems that are very pressing to developers.
Cool, man. Looking forward the test net and all things like that. I see one of the individuals from Fuel Network up here, Zurex Golden. If you want to come on up, bro, would love to have you up and include in the conversation. And shout out to Bill Monday. I'm assuming from the bio, he's uh, part of like community manager or something like that. So what's up, Bill? And yeah, if you guys want to come on up, I sent you an invite to speak. And yeah, I guess that sums it up, man. This has been an excellent conversation. If you guys are enjoying this content, my name's Wabi. I host spaces like these throughout the week with awesome founders such as Keon from Monad, and you can catch a replay of this up on our YouTube. And for tomorrow, we're gonna be hosting Leslie Lamb from the OpenX Exchange, and then on Friday we have Ben Cowan and also the team over at Unsheath to discuss all things liquid staking derivatives. So feel free to follow us and also Monad. I've posted a plethora of things up on the Nest. Be sure to check that out. Everything from the memes that the social media manager puts up. Love seeing those. I actually put up the Hulk picture with Keon's face on my timeline, and I said, "This is going to be a future main character," but you wouldn't believe it. And very, very bullish on you guys, man. Thank you once again for coming on up, dude. Super enthusiastic for what you guys are building, and a
Appreciate you
very
guys.
and a very informative space, really, man. I always love discussing more of like the super, super technical issues. And also shout out to John W. Rich, the kid, the Wendy's fry cook. He's up in our audience as a listener, and it's always funny to see who tunes into these spaces. I believe one time he had tweeted about, oh, yo, let's go, man. Oh gosh, man. But yeah, I think he posted a tweet about Costco, um, like raising their hot dog combo prices by like 10 cents, something like that, and it was like a world of panic. It was insane. It was insane, man. And truth be told, man, Costco is a few things that I enjoy. doing here. I enjoy doing being here in America. But before we close off, Kiana, outside of all things like trading and digital asset development, what are some things that you enjoy doing, like hobbies or anything like that? Outside of the space, brother.
I'm into powerlifting and I love dogs.
Yo, let's go, dude. Same here, man. That is so sick. Yo, that is so sick, man. Same here, powerlifting. The deadlift is my favorite lift, hands down. Strongman as well, bro. So,
Yeah.
man, what's your favorite lift, brother?
Nice.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah, mine is deadlift also, but I think your deadlift is probably a little higher than mine.
Oh gosh, man. Dude, that is sick. I think this is the first time that I've ever ran into somebody in the dev space that is that's into powerlifting, man. Um
Oh, nice.
yeah.
We got to form a DAO now.
Yeah, like
Iron
we'll
DAO.
call we'll call it Iron Dow, bro. Iron Dow, man. And yeah, maybe we can get Boris Shako to be a strategic partner in the Dow, man. That would be pretty sick, man. What kind of lifters do you follow, brother?
I don't know. I also like watching Olympic lifters. I'm not into it, but I was watching some videos the other day. It's just it's very their explosiveness is very inspiring.
Yeah, man. My favorite athlete in the world of strength, hands down, has to be Eddie Hall. Hands down, man. We've got the same proportions and height and all that stuff, man. Um, and I find that, like, whenever you have that discipline in physicality, you apply that to everything that you do. And I think that's what's kept me in the digital asset space, man, over the past 5 years. It's just like that hunger to want to learn more and more and more, and be surrounded by individuals that are way smarter than me, such as yourself, sir. So yeah, with that said, man, yo, God bless you, your family, your friends, the team over at Monad. Shout out to Bill Monday, holding it down for the community and all that stuff, and for the listeners in the crowd. Thank you all so much. Your support means a lot to us. And Kiana, I look forward to having more discussions with you once the testnet is launched. And really excited for what you guys are going to produce, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, man. Have a good evening.
Same to you guys. Thanks. Bye.